We are virgins no longer.
So a little fun fact about Greece.
In a boat, we're Americans. We're going to spend money. And at the risk of sounding morbid,
The oldest travel influencers on the podcast scene at some point here. So Chuck and I are happy to take your calls. Well, if I had a secretary, we're separate but equal. Someone has to like me best. Enough money and time, you can do anything you want in this world.
the man, the myth, and legend.
I got a Volvo.
Not a political statement.
Travel like something is potentially going wrong. Extra underwear. You can't wear shorts everywhere.
Chuck decides to move to France.
Well, first of all, let's just say this. Everybody get your passports. Who's coming, I'll fight you.
I'm not trying to be funny. They speak the language.
Today's my last day. We're just going to shut down right here.
We spent 4 days of the cruise in our cabins dying.
And if you're sick, don't travel. Ever handsome, ever friendly, ever wonderful. It's not that I don't like children.
She's very picky about everything but her men.
I do believe I proclaimed for the spirit that day because I don't wear pajamas.
And last week on Life in the Baggage Claim.
Hey everyone, welcome to Life in the Baggage Claim, where we get together and talk about life stories and travel journeys. And today I'm real excited to have with me my co-host, as always, Chuck Longerbeam, the handsome and talented man. And Chuck, you have a special guest who's a member of your family. Would you like to talk about who's here today?
Yes, I'm very proud and very happy to have my son Malcolm with us today. He has taken 2 solo travel trips in the last year, and he wanted to bring him on to talk about solo travel and all the things he's done. Jim, you and I talked about endlessly everything from the point of view of men in their and I just thought it would be really cool to have the younger generation talk about travel. So Malcolm, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
What I sort of love right now is we're a 3-pan and it's Malcolm in the middle.
No, he didn't. Yes, he did.
I've actually never heard that before. Actually, ever.
Well, to be very clear, he was born about 4 years before that show ever came out, and people still are like, Malcolm in the middle. So anyway.
I gave up on saying that to people to explain it, but I can't stop it anymore.
I don't blame you. So Malcolm, tell us about the trips you took.
Okay. Yeah. Broadly speaking, I had an office job and I was starting to get stir crazy. And I'm like, I had never taken a trip by myself outside the States. And I have always been fortunate enough to have gone with family and have them pay for it. But yeah, I wanted to do a solo adventure kind of thing and just go where my heart took me, but also plan it methodically enough to where I did one awesome thing each day that interested me wherever I was. And then the rest was just kind of living life, just walking the streets. So what I did is I flew into Paris and then took the Channel underground undersea to London and then flew to Germany and did 5 cities in 5 days in Germany and then flew home.
Where did you go in Germany? What city did you go to fly into?
Yeah. So I went ahead and flew into Munich first.
Beautiful airport. My first trip to Germany was through Munich as well.
Okay.
And it was one of those things. I went in March, not expecting it to be cold, landed and it snowed all day in Munich. So nothing like dragging luggage through the streets of Munich with snow everywhere. But a beautiful airport, beautiful place. I love Munich.
Yeah, it's cool. I wanted to check out Germany because I've been trying to learn, and it's a tough language, honestly, even as one of the Romance languages go. So I thought I'd fly into there and then, just kind of train hop. I hopped on what's called the Eurail. Europe rail, and then just do a zigzag pattern, and then I ended in Cologne and flew home. I wanted to end with a bang, and see the cathedral. So
nice.
Cool.
So one of the things that I think is interesting there, and I love that you did this, is the train stuff. Because I think when I talk to folks about Europe, and I wish I had done this, there's so much more opportunity to go see things by train. But if you're not used to it, you don't kind of know your costs, you know what we're going to spend. So talk a little bit about this. Is it reasonably budget friendly to be on a train jumping around Germany?
I'd say it's reasonable. The locals might disagree, but as far as a foreigner goes, me being the foreigner, obviously, I planned it ahead so that I could comfortably know exactly what I did was I did what anyone does these days and just Google how to get around, just being honest. And I found the Eurail as an option. You can pay by the day, you can pay by 3-day, 5-day, 7-day chunks, or you can do a month pass. And I'm like, that's pointless. So I prepaid for the exact number of days I needed it for. And It's not location specific. It's just across the country. So I was like, well, I'm doing 5 cities in Germany in 5 days. Let me get a 4 or 5 day pass. And then that's that.
What did you pay? Do you remember?
I think it was $250 or $300 for 5 days.
And see, that sounds reasonable to me. Like you said, maybe the locals would have a problem with. I mean, to be able to travel literally anywhere in the country on a luxury train. I mean, you said it was very comfortable train.
Yeah, I'm shocked actually. Not to be cliche, but like Germany's a very, very clean country. Like the subways, I didn't see a piece of trash on the ground. I felt really I'm like, where's the trash? Like I'm looking for it. I didn't see anything. So
Yeah, that's one of those things that I think when you travel, sometimes the countries you're surprised. Found that Germany's really clean, France is pretty clean. It's just you sometimes come back home and you go, "What are we doing wrong?" Right? What has
mhm.
America missed? I think your pricing on the train is amazing. I still have that vision someday, like landing somewhere in Europe, hopping on trains and just going all over the place, not being bound by a tight schedule because it feels because rail is so ingrained into the community there, and because well, they had this little thing called a war where they had to rebuild all that infrastructure, right? So it's newer. You don't have the same challenges here where we gave up our infrastructure for the, big oil and tire companies and all that kind of thing. And now we're trying to regain it when it's so expensive. But back to the solo travel thing, what did you learn traveling by yourself that you don't think you'd have learned any other way?
Well, the cool thing about solo travel is this is going to sound obvious, but there's no one with you to bounce ideas on, and you really just have to adapt on the fly. If you miss I mean, thankfully didn't miss a flight. Knock on wood, never will. But because I plan things very carefully on that front. But as
No,
far as like,
where'd you get that from?
not my dad, that's for sure. Sorry,
Damn.
Dad.
All right.
But
I got you.
well, it's one of those things you don't want to be caught off guard with transportation. So I planned that and transportation and lodging. The rest I figured out. It's like if I'm hungry, I look down the street and there's a million cafes. I'm like, that'll work.
Yeah, yeah.
But what I learned is just how to find the little things around the big like idea you have for the day. So I did one what I considered cool or interesting event per day, and then before or after in the middle of whatever that thing, I just went with the flow. I took a walk, cobblestone streets, hurt my feet everywhere, got a latte somewhere, like stopped in a garden, whatever. And you just learn how to be okay with being on your own, actually, like in every sense.
And I think that's a big perk of solo travel is that you don't have to think about somebody else and their plans, their schedule, their agenda. It's nice to have company, right? I mean, it's nice to have somebody traveling with you, but it's also nice just to say, if I don't want to get up, I don't have to get up. And if I want to get up and go, I can, or I can
Yep.
go where I want to stay out as late as I want to walk wherever I want, and not be afraid the other person isn't enjoying that, right?
Yeah, 100%. And it's great to have people with you, but also no one's knocking on your door like time to get up. We got to go do the thing. If I want to snooze, I can. And that's the other cool thing about having what I would recommend to someone who's solo traveling for the first time, have an event for the day, like a ticket for wherever, like a museum, and then just shotgun the rest because you won't regret it. You won't feel like you've wasted the day, but also you won't feel overbooked.
It also becomes an incentive to sort of get moving, right? I mean, if you got something planned, you go do it, right?
Yeah.
Because I know when I don't plan things, I'm traveling alone. Those are the days I probably don't get out of bed. And sometimes and it happens a lot even in the cruises, right? If I've solo cruised, I get in my room and sometimes a day it goes by and I haven't left the room, because that's part of vacationing too, to my mind, right?
Absolutely. Malcolm, if you wouldn't mind, talk about what you did in London because I still think so. I have a love that I passed on to Malcolm, and I didn't know this even existed. And when you told me about it, I'm rarely envious of my child, and I don't mean that in a negative way because I love what he does, but I'm really freaking envious about this one.
Okay. Well, yeah. I did I did the classic, a Buckingham Palace. Like you just stand outside with a bunch of other people and take pictures, and you're like, cool. On to the next thing. I'm not big on spectacle in that sense. I'd rather do something like more niche. So I'm a huge fan of Stanley Kubrick movies, and just in passing while I was planning for this trip, I had seen a documentary or something where it talked about like the archive in London. I'm like, wait, what? And so I did some Googling. Turns out there's a Stanley Kubrick archive with, set photos and props and manuscripts and first drafts, like in London in this tiny little college that you could drive by and miss. And I'm like, how do you see all that? So I figured out how to get a guest ticket, email this nice lady, and you literally pick an itemized list of 10 or fewer things you want to see and like put your hands on
Wow.
under supervision. And then they bring it out for you and it's free, actually. You just have to dig. You have to know, you have to ask nicely and then they'll let you do it. So
That's
You got to see the all work and no play makes a dull boy
Yeah.
pages, which I know that sounds totally esoteric geeky, but I'm like, are you serious? That's so
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, the whole stack.
Wouldn't
Yeah.
know to find unless somebody, you have to do the research, right? You have to kind of know
Oh yeah.
it even exists, right? So that's what I love about if you travel solo, you can make those last minute thing commitments for yourself. You can go do it, right? So it's a great
Yeah.
opportunity.
Well, it was funny because I was telling Malcolm when he did all of that, I'm like, I would have loved all of that, but I don't think I would have had the wherewithal at 26 years old to maybe do that. And then of course I thought about it for another second. I'm like, well, yes, but there wasn't Google. And I mean something like the cathedral in Cologne, whatever, that's been there for
Right.
500 years, whatever it is. That's a thing that if you can read that in a lot of different places, but like the Kubrick archive, unless you had seen something in some random magazine or something. Yeah, I was just interested because he's like, I'm going to the Kubrick archive. I'm like, you're going to the what? And he told me that. I was like, oh, that's so freaking cool. But then Jim asked you what cities you went in Germany, and you told us you went into Munich and you finished in Cologne. What were the other ones?
Okay, let me try to get the order correct because it was 5 cities in 5 days, which pause for a second. I would not recommend that exhausted
Well,
me because I was literally I bought some clothes and overpacked, so I was carrying a massive like backpack duffel and and books that I bought, like actual books on the way. So it was like 80 pounds on my back, and I was taking the train between anyway. So yeah, don't do that. But if you want to pick like 2 cities, I went to Munich, Frankfurt, Nuremberg, Stuttgart, and ended in Cologne.
which was your favorite?
Nuremberg, actually, like holistically, because the architecture is what you consider when you see, if you go to, this is for Virginia people, if you go to like Oktoberfest and Busch Gardens and you
Mhm.
picture like the fest house and all that and the architecture and the music and stuff like that, that's sort of Nuremberg, the old school, like,
Center of Munich is a little bit like that too. If you go to the square in Munich, it's very much it's like the one untouched area, right, where things didn't get rebuilt.
yeah, you mentioned, I think you mentioned earlier, rebuilding after the war. So what they told me is when I took a tour of the 3 churches in Nuremberg, which are gorgeous and they all look similar. They've got the, like, I think it's Byzantine Christian art just hanging on the wall, unguarded, just there. And I'm like, this is better than anything I've seen in our museums. They took the stained glass out of the churches, like removed it because they knew it was going to be bombed, and then reinstalled it when the war was over. So they preserved it.
That's a very interesting fact. Most people probably don't even know, right? I mean, I think there's things like that first of all, Americans would then even know what to do with that experience of a war on home territory, right? But when you go travel Europe, if you go solo, you can talk to people very easily. And I know even when I went to music, we sat in a beer hall, one of the Longerbeam halls or something one night, and just the stories people tell you about things that went on. Because you're wondering, you don't necessarily know when you're in Germany in general, right? What's new and old. And I found it really just sort of blew my mind sometimes to realize the whole city was at one point leveled, So
Yeah.
It's really interesting this is sort of a little side note, but Malcolm's godfather's father is British and told me he was one of my scout leaders and we were sitting around one day and he was telling me when he was like 6 or 7, he remembers the Blitz. Like he remembers the, and exactly what you're saying, Jim. I know we had a war here 120
it's been a long time since there's been a war to think about.
whatever the hell it was, but it didn't affect us the way it affected Europe. I mean, because first of all, there weren't bombs dropping from planes and heavy munitions and all that. Yes, it affected us, but it's different. And you're right, there are people still alive, or who remember it, or that kind of thing. Whereas nobody's alive to remember the Civil War. And again, the Civil War did not encompass, if you look at it, the entire country. Like for the most part, World War II did in all the countries. It's interesting that history we don't have. You're right. It's interesting to hear those stories. It's like, wait, you remember your city being bombed?
Just a pop here. If you're joining us right now, you're with Life in the Baggage Claim. And as we always do, we drift around topics. Today we're talking with Malcolm Longerbeam, the son of my host, Chuck Longerbeam, and we are talking about solo travel, but we've drifted deep into German history and pigs and bombs and wars, which is part of why you come watch us here at Life in the Baggage Claim, because we go all over the place. And I would say, one of the things I was thinking while we were talking there was living in San Francisco, they have Fleet Week. I don't know if anybody else, any other states or countries, if they do that anywhere, but Fleet Week means the fleet comes in and they fly and buzz San Francisco all weekend long with all kinds of military aircraft. And it's the closest you ever get to literally feeling like you're being, like in a war zone because you got jets racing over your house and it rumbles, right? You go, what the hell was that, right? So, I don't think people realize what it was like being those times. Blackouts, being told to duck and cover and all that kind of stuff was real. Folks grew up with that age is starting to die off, right? So there will be less memory, but it changed the whole fabric of Europe and the way we see it. And I think it's great to go see that stuff. So back into the solo travel game, go check out these places. There's so much history to walk through and live through over there.
Now, Malcolm, did you go to Sicily? I can't remember. Did you go to Sicily on your first trip or your second trip?
Second trip.
Do tell, please.
Okay, sure. Well, this was a bigger undertaking, I think, because Sicily is quite isolated, aside from the obvious, it being an island. It's tough because it's a very slow-paced rural version of, I would suppose, Italy mainland. I have not, aside from touching down in Rome's airport, I don't count that. I have not been to Italy proper, but Sicily, you have to figure out how to get around, and it's like country, not in, So I had to rent a car when I touched down, and basically I decided to visit all of these small towns that you hear about, like the €1 home type scheme. I wanted to visit them, but I went in a circle around the mainland on the west side of the island, and probably the most scared I've ever been driving because the hills and everything does this. So yeah, I rented a car and then I booked, my stay for each night prior to arriving, thankfully. But yeah, it was a heck of a time.
What was your favorite part of Sicily, or did you enjoy Sicily?
I did. Yeah, some towns are. I'm glad I saw a few towns because some of them are so slow paced. It's not to diss the older generations. If there's just primarily, hold on, there's only elderly people living there. There's not much to do. They're just kind of having an espresso in the morning, going about their life, and then I show up like a young American, and I'm like, what are we doing? But
I think
I don't know.
us in a few more years, Chuck, we're going to be the elderly, hopefully getting to sit around and have a cappuccino.
Well, the sad part is he probably considers us elderly at this point.
No comment, but yeah.
Now he's getting it. See, now he's waking up.
My child, what can I say?
But I think my favorite town was Salemi. It's this little town about an hour or two from the coast. I'm a sucker for architecture, even though I took art history. I cannot remember the names of any movements proper. I'm like, ooh, old brick, that's pretty, old stone, So that was great, and the food is fantastic. Like I had to try like homemade Italian pasta in Italy, and it's amazing.
So let me ask you, this is sort of a personal question. I mean, I know the backstory of this because you're my kid. Did you know you had a love for architecture and cathedrals before you went to Europe, or was that something that came out of going to Europe?
That's a good question. I think I had a love for it without having seen it, if that makes sense. So like you can check, when you're taught art history and all that, you can look at a picture of a painting and be like, that's gorgeous. Wish I could see it. And then you see it in person, you're like, yeah, that's stunning. Wow. So architecture wise, I think that kind of definitely developed more when I was over there because it's all around you. And what blew my mind was some of the cathedrals where you just walk in and there's artwork hanging there. It's not the American in me came out and I'm like, where's the rope that prevents you from getting too close? Where's the person being like, don't touch that? It's just there because there's a assumed respect for you to not mess with anything.
When you were going to Sicily, did you feel like you were in the Godfather movies? Because I think there's so much to that that's true, because it is beautiful countryside, right? I mean, it's like, and I mean from a sense of the visuals, not the, I got an offer you can't refuse kind of thing. But I mean, Sicily is an arid, sort of drier area. It's a lot like California, so it's very similar to that.
Yeah, on the mafia thing, it's like, I know there's some history there in Sicily, but yeah, when I was driving around and in fact just walking around, like the skies were so unpolluted and clear and blue, like picturesque. I don't know it's hard to explain in words, but there were olive fields and like fields of grapes for like winemaking, but just no homes for like a mile or two. It's just straight green grass, hills, vegetation, and I'm like, wow, why do people not like? It's the kind of thing where you're like, I'd love to retire here, but also like feasibility and practicality, not really there.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think with Sicily's remoteness and disconnection from the mainland, they've tried for years to get a bridge built or something. In a way, keeping it disconnected has kept it more remote and pristine, I think. And I think a lot of like folks don't realize Sicily gives you a real view of Italy in many ways, right? It's a very beautiful point of seeing true rural Italy.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there are some B&Bs that there was one in particular in a town called Nero. I hope I'm not botching that because they roll their R's a little bit. But it's set on a winery. Like I think they make their own wine and stuff. And it's just you have a 360 view of the countryside, and you don't see any cars or industry or anything like that. It's just like green pastures. Then that's what stunned me more than anything else.
Sure. Now we talked about solo travel a couple times on the show where one of the things we bring up is safety. How safe did you feel and things like that? And I think we've always said, as a man, as a white male, a little easier, a lot less stressful. Did you at any point worry about security, safety, things like that? Or and for the most part, I mean, you're a strapping young guy, right? You hold presence, so nobody's gonna run up to you and be like trying to roll you, right? You would take some work.
Yeah.
So you ever feel unsecure?
Yeah, he's an inch taller than me. He's yeah.
I know you show me pictures. I've seen him.
I'm just saying. Well, no,
All
it's,
right,
you
point
can't
me.
tell on. Well, no, it's funny. You can't tell on camera, and several times in podcast, Jim's like, Chuck's a big guy. He doesn't look like it, necessarily, but Chuck's a big guy. But yeah, I mean, Jim and I have met face to face, obviously. Yeah, Malcolm's taller than I am. So I don't think a lot of people are just going to, you're right.
No, so that plays an advantage to your security, right? So did you ever feel, though, that there was a point where you worried about your own safety?
I suppose you're asking like overall in
Yeah,
my,
overall,
in my
any of
travel.
your
Okay.
solo traveling.
When the bigger the city, I would try to have I've spent the last 10 or so years in Richmond, so I've learned how to put my don't come up and talk to me face on. And as an introvert, those two aren't dissimilar.
Because I think I know that face from your dad.
Got that.
Don't make me move on. I'll be on there. No, and I
But
think
yeah, I mean,
that's good. It is right? Yes, don't bother me.
yeah, couple times I would look over my shoulder. For the most part, I'd have to try to just put my said face on and walk around, tight t-shirt, whatever. People leave me alone. But that's the other thing. Like I felt safer in most of the European cities I went to than I would just walking like one of ours, for example, getting political. But like they don't like gun violence really isn't a thing over there. But yeah, so broadly speaking, I felt fine. It's just when you get the odd homeless person trying to flag you down, or a scammer being like, excuse me, tickets please, and it has nothing to do with what you're doing, and you're like, no, and you just walk away. That's all.
It's so I think that's something that we talked about too, is just if you go experience another country, you come back with a different opinion about the foreign lands, right? Americans who are afraid of everything overseas have never been there. And that their fear is driven from what they see on TV and what they hear, not from what they've experienced. So I think that's a good thing, a message to share with people. Like, go check this stuff out. And I always say that, like, go find out for yourself if it's scary. Believe what you see. And also don't expect it to be like the TV version you watch, right? I think I've told Chuck the story of when I was in the UK going out to see Stonehenge. So I rented a car, put myself in grave danger of driving on the wrong side of the road the whole way out. And I could see finally up in the distance on a hillside Stonehenge. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm finally here, right? And it's not getting any bigger the closer I get. And I get there, I'm like, this is what they're all making a big deal about. This thing's tiny. It's nothing, right? And it's just that perspective, right? It looks huge when you're on TV. I had more fun at the Dr. Hugh Museum in Cardiff than I did going to see Stonehenge. But it's just that kind of experience. You don't know what the scale when Notre Dame burned, right? If you've been to France, you've seen Notre Dame, you understood what was going on.
Well, and it's interesting too because limited experience. But Malcolm and I, when we were in Paris together, we almost got scammed. I don't know if you remember this.
Oh yeah, no,
But
I was thinking that. Yeah,
it was actually, I don't know how to say this. It was actually better thought through than they were done in the U.S. So when you go to the Louvre, you buy a ticket, and don't hold me to the specifics, but I think you get like 3 hours, right? And then after that, you got to go. Well, we're leaving. There's an exit, and there are these young Parisian guys, probably late teens, early 20s, and they're like, "We're collecting your tickets." It's like, okay. So I gave the guy my ticket because I'm done. And then my wife, who's infinitely smarter than I am, said, there's still time left on those tickets. And I'm like, these little suckers were going to go around and sell at a discount and say, hey, there's 40 minutes left on this. Give me $20 or whatever. So I walked over and I said, I need that as a souvenir. And the guy's like, and and Malcolm will attest to this, Jim. I don't know. Have you been to Paris? You've been to Paris, right? Malcolm and I are giants in Paris.
I've actually experienced this scam when I was to lose. Well,
Okay,
so
but I mean, Malcolm and I are
Yeah.
giants in Paris. We tower over most Parisians, and I'm not saying that as a. It's just true. So I'm like, no, I want it back for a souvenir, and the guy's like, okay, but it was like. It never crossed my mind because I'm like, okay, collect the tickets. What the hell do I care? I'm done with it.
And that's one thing I would warn people about is like when you're traveling, if you're a bit of a softie on the inside, just leave that at home when people are coming up to you because like nobody really needs your help specifically. I mean, they can spot, they're like, yeah, he's not from here. And then because when I was in, oh, what was it? When I was in Berlin, I was going to an art museum and there was this woman like sounded like she was on the verge of tears, like, please sign this. And I'm like, nope. And I just kept walking. And inside, I'm like, what if I was wrong? But I'm like, nah, I'm not, no.
Well, that's one of those moments you're like, what could I have possibly signed to help her out? What would my name in Berlin mean to anybody? Yeah.
well, I always say to folks, don't dress like an American. Look at what the local people kind of wear. Get yourself into dressing that a less culturally auspicious version.
What are you laughing about, Dad?
I'm laughing at Jim because here comes the don't wear shorts everywhere speech and all that. Go ahead.
No, use that speech, and I don't wear pajamas, okay?
See, I just wore whatever I wanted and just tried to ignore people.
But that's the thing. If you wear what you want, it's like just don't walk around being an American, sign.
Mhm.
You bring up a good point, both of you. And I don't think it's within reason, of course. Obviously, yes, if you're in Paris and you're wearing pajamas like people do to Walmart, you stick out like a sore thumb. But I think a lot about Americans going overseas is how you present yourself. It's less about what you wear and all that. It's how you present yourself. If you're loud and obnoxious and trying to be flashy like Americans, no, I mean, let's be realistic. They can see you coming. Now I know I'm loud, but I'm not.
Boy,
I knew this. I knew there was a double-edged sword to having this kid on today. No, just kidding.
language, folks. Just watch the two.
But no, I mean, when I say loud and obnoxious, I mean demanding. I am far from a demanding person, but I mean, you saw. Well, Malcolm doesn't remember this because he was really, really young. But I think I've talked about this before. When we lived in Hawaii, I could spot a tourist like that, and it had nothing to do with the color of their skin or anything else. There's a haughtiness, and there's a reason why Hawaiian people kind of don't like white folks, and it's because there's this weird haughtiness, like, I'm better, that like you should wait on me and you should do this, and if you take that with you anywhere, but especially Europe, where they're a lot calmer and have probably not the best opinion of Americans, especially right now. Yeah, that could be interesting. So I know Malcolm. I've known him obviously his whole life. He's a very low key person. Yeah, I'm sure it didn't matter at all what you were wearing. It's how you carry yourself. You were not trying to be in anybody's way or anything like that.
It's more I feel like the socialization it's a little more subdued, a little more low key, a little more introverted on average. So I kind of, aside from my clothes, I feel like I kind of blended in. I'm like, this feels more like, that sounds cheesy, feels more like home to me because everybody's just kind of leaving me alone, let me do my thing. And also like wait staff, like obviously tipping culture is different or actually non-existent over there. And they'll be like, yeah, qu'est-ce que tu fais, whatever, like, what do you want? And I'm like, espresso, whatever. And then they'll bring it to you and they'll leave you alone. They're like, is everything okay? It's just like, I just do my thing.
So there's a travel channel I watch, and then I like this couple and how they review things. They've started doing cruises and recently did a Virgin cruise. And Chuck, you'll laugh at this. They complain because it took too long to get their food. And I'm like, the reality is in most of the world, a dinner meal is a couple hours. You sit down, enjoy the food, you talk, it processes through you, you have another course. This American idea that you got 20-minute tables.
What the hell goes on a cruise and is in a hurry?
Obviously, these people were.
No, I know, but I mean, in my opinion, that completely flies in the face of a cruise. Now, if you're doing what Malcolm did and you've got to get from, and bear with my geography, if you've got to get from Berlin to Cologne and you got to catch a train and all that, fine. There's a time limit there. And when you're on a cruise, like, where the hell are you going to go? Calm down, slow down. That's the whole point.
You're going to sit in a cafe anywhere in Europe. No one's going to rush you. They're going to let you sit. You can have that cafe all day if that's what you want.
Yeah, I got that when we went to Paris. When we took Malcolm to Paris for his.
You sit in a Starbucks seat all day. What happens?
Yeah, well, I mean, we went to Paris for Malcolm's college graduation, and we were sitting in it. It was Storybook, man. It's like every TV show I've ever seen. We're sitting. It was beautiful summertime. We're sitting in an outdoor cafe in France.
You just hear
The people are bantering. The waitress was wonderful but hardcore. I mean, she was funny as hell. She took crap from no one. But it was just, I mean, we weren't giving her any, but she's like, there were these older French guys and they were saying stuff. She's like, ah. And it was just like, okay, this is really cool. Everybody's laid back and nobody was in a hurry for anything. It was, it was really, really cool. It wasn't like when we finished our water, we put it down, they were standing there, they'd come back over a couple minutes later, like, more water? Yeah, okay, cool.
No urgency.
No.
But
So Malcolm, looking at everything in the solo travel, what's if you could tell the folks one of the what you consider the most important thing to consider doing solo travel, what would you synthesize that down to?
prepare the essentials with your schedule such that you know where you're going to sleep every night. You have a backup plan, like backup cash, whatever, in case you miss a train, plane, whatever. So cover transportation and lodging before you get there. Pick one thing that would interest you, and don't don't fall into the trap of like the tourist usual stuff. Like, try to find something off the beaten path. Go down a rabbit hole, find something cool that you think nobody else would normally do, because it'll be less busy. You can take your time. You don't risk getting pickpocketed. That and just like fill in the gaps with whatever comes to mind while you're over there, because there's no one telling you like, hey, I've got to go to the restroom, or hey, can we stop here, hey, can we wrap this up. You just vibe, you just flow after that.
And I think that's fantastic advice because you don't know till you get over there. Like, you don't know, like you said, you're walking down the street and you're like, oh, that looks cool. You don't know. I mean, I don't care how good anybody is at researching. You're not going to know. I like that idea of that's brilliant. One thing I'm definitely doing today, and then for the rest of the time, I'm just going to keep my eyes open.
Because there's sometimes you're just really going to want to be like, I'm going back to the hotel or hostel and I'm taking a nap, because I was at that point a couple times. So,
and I think I love that you subscribe to the ethos of like turn off the beaten path, because that's one thing that we talk a lot about here is go experience a country, a place away from the tourists, because that's where you experience that country, right? Because if you're with the tourists, you're just experiencing what tourists experience. So it's good to say that. I think people need to get more adventurous when they go somewhere. If everybody goes left, go right and see what's right instead.
And I think the one exception to that new rule, I guess, that we're agreeing on, if you're like me and you just can't paint or draw worth a damn, but you really enjoy art and just absorbing it, the Louvre is a must. Like, I've been twice. I'm fortunate enough to have been, twice. And sometimes you just want to absorb and sit there with a particular random piece down a hallway for like half an hour, and no one can stop you from doing that.
Yeah.
One of my favorite memories is when we were in Paris. We were at the Louvre, and Malcolm, like I said, he had just graduated college. We took him on that trip as a celebration of him graduating undergrad, and he was telling us about this painting he had studied in an art history class, and I have a picture of him standing and staring at this 8-foot tall, no, it's a beautiful thing, like what was it, Joan of Arc, right?
No, a Raft of the Medusa. It's
That's a very different film.
But no, I have a picture of him staring at it. He's got it so cool because he's got his hands in his pockets and he's absolutely in rapt attention. And it was just neat because he had been talking about, I'd been studying this painting, and then here he is 3 feet from it. That's the kind of thing. I agree. I think that's fantastic. You got to do the Louvre. You got to, and the Louvre is one of those things. It's like Disney World. You need more than one day. You really, really do. And if you can pull that off, great. Because there's like, we went through the entire Louvre, I believe, but there were so many things like there was that, like we went to Egyptian section, and I would love to go back and just, for lack of a better term, dawdle and just hang out and like you said, get stuck on something for a half an hour. But yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, I'm not saying don't go to the tourist traps. Just kind of pick your tourist traps, right?
Yeah.
In Paris, you got to go see the Eiffel Tower. You got to try to get up to the top. I don't even know if you can get up to the top anymore, but it's sort of do it. Well, I did it on New Year's Eve, and it was something very special.
That's cool.
Very good.
I mean, in my case, it was the ending. I wanted to end with a bang, and on my travels, like Cologne was the last stop, and then the next morning I was flying out, back home, and I'm like, I'm going to finish the trip because I'll probably be tired, and I was, spoiler alert, with the Cologne Cathedral, and I'm literally just going to enjoy it for a couple hours and then do nothing else after that. So
you went to the top of that, didn't you?
Yeah, it's like 500 steps. It was a lot. It was like 500 steps.
Yeah,
it's a young man's game.
Well, it's one of those, you're so high up where you like literally start to feel nauseated because you're like, yeah, what if, and you start doing the whole like I'm at the edge, I'm 500 feet in the air, whatever. It's a lot, but it's beautiful, gorgeous.
Well, hey, Malcolm, it's been a real pleasure having you here. I'm glad you agreed to come sit on your dad's show with us and talk about your solo travels. I'd like to have you back sometime in the future, hear more about any place you go, because I think it's great to share your stories. We bring a perspective from our age. You're bringing a fresh, younger perspective to this, and we need to hear that because I think your generation just takes things differently than we did, right? So it's sort of fun to hear. But appreciate you making your time with us today. And thanks for taking our rap as we go along. We're not really hitting it hard, just having fun. But I appreciate you being here.
Of course, thanks for having me.
Well, thanks, folks. That's it for this episode. Stick around with us again. Like, subscribe if you like what you hear. Please like and subscribe and share. And Chuck Longerbeam for Jim Hauck and Malcolm Longerbeam. Thank you, and we will see you folks next week.